Anybody we need?
We do not, Chair Cruz. Pam is. You are.
All right. Sounds good then. Okay. The January 27, 2021 Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners meeting is now convened. Pam, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Platt?
Here.
Commissioner Gambetti?
Here.
Commissioner Stoudemire Wesley?
Here.
Commissioner Myers?
Here.
Chair Cruz?
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So now I'm going to read a short notice. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the need to limit in-person contact and promote social distancing, Prosper Portland is holding this meeting electronically as allowed by state law. All members of the commission are attending remotely by phone or by internet, and Prosper Portland has made several avenues available for the public to listen to the audio broadcast of this meeting. The public can also provide written testimony to the commission by emailing prospercommissioners@prosperportland.us. Again, that's prospercommissioners@prosperportland.us. Okay, thanks everyone, and welcome to our meeting for the month of January. We'll start with the usual commissioners' reports. Does anyone have anything they would like to report?
Real quick, I attended the cafe meeting on January 21st and perhaps one other date between now and our last meeting. I'm not sure.
Okay. Great, thank you. Anyone else have anything?
I attended the on Thursday the 21st the meeting for the USDA grant that Prosper is helping to administer for purposes of exploring a sustainable food system economic development strategy.
Okay. Super. Thanks very much. Any others? Okay, for my part, I just had some ongoing meetings and calls and whatnot that I participated in, so nothing that is worthy of notation for the minutes. Speaking of minutes, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the December 16, 2020 minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor, please indicate approval by aye.
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 Great. Thank you. Passes unanimously. All right. So next up, do we have any public comment?
I don't believe we do.
We do
Chair
not.
Cruz.
We do not.
And Chair Cruz, unless we're moving this from the agenda, I do believe that there's an executive director report.
Did we? Gosh, how did I skip by that? I apologize. Okay. I knew we had one, but I was out of order. Thank you. Ms. Branham.
Thanks, Chair Cruz. Good afternoon, commissioners. I was like, oh, great. This is,
Again, my apologies.
no, it's fine. I like to be kept on my toes. So Happy New Year, everybody. It's nice to be together. I wish that we could be together in person, but we have been working hard in this first month of the new year to really try to find ways to support the city's economy and our communities. So I'm going to highlight a few milestones and then share just a couple of ways that people can be helpful. So first, I want to note that on January 6th, City Council unanimously approved the proposed amendment to the Interstate Tax Increment Finance District that was before you this fall, which increased the available resources in the Interstate District by $67 million. As you'll recall, 70% of those resources will be invested through the Portland Housing Bureau in line with the preference policy and the North-Northeast Housing Strategy, and 30% will be invested by Prosper Portland in line with the North-Northeast Community Development Action Plan. We heard a lot of important testimony, some of which was voicing support for the additional resources that would be focused on supporting individuals and communities who've been harmed by urban renewal in the past. And then we also heard a lot of concerns about the history of urban renewal, particularly as used against the Black community in our city. I appreciate City Council and Multnomah County for their support, given the financial implications to their general funds and the expression that this is really an important investment of resources at this time to prevent displacement and to support communities at this moment in our history. I will also want to appreciate the leadership of the North-Northeast Housing Oversight Committee, which was the body that brought forward this proposal. And I want to congratulate and appreciate the Portland Housing Bureau staff, especially Leslie Goodlow and our team here at Prosper, Justin Douglas, Robert Smith, Tony Barnes, Nancy Wilson, Lisa Abwaf at Prosper Portland, who worked really hard to get this to a point where council could make a decision. On January 12th, we joined a number of our partners at the City of Portland in a City Council work session on the investment of CARES funds. I was really pleased to be able to report that we were able to distribute nearly $15 million to small businesses via the Small Business Relief Fund and through block grants to community nonprofits within a very tight timeline with an incredible array of partners and in line with our racial equity priorities. Of the 1,350 businesses that were selected through the Prosper Run program, approximately 89% of the grants were awarded to businesses owned by people who identified as Black, Indigenous, or person of color. 57% of the grants were awarded to women-owned businesses. And in looking at the industry data, there was really a wide variety of industries that were supported. But notably, about 60% of the resources went to restaurants or personal services or childcare providers. These are industries that have been very hard hit through COVID and or are essential services to the functioning of our economy. So huge appreciation to Robert Smith, Amy Fleck-Rossetti, Amy Nagy, Shay Flannery-Bettine, Tori Campbell, Ann Mangan, Lisa Norwood, Sean Ullman, John Wasserman, and almost the entire organization at Prosper Portland who made this possible in record time. We were also able to share our lessons learned, and it was great to hear that a number of the other investments, particularly to support households through the Portland Housing Bureau, were also effectively invested within a really tight timeline. I also just want to note that I'm pleased to announce that core PDX food hall and food cart pod on 82nd near Powell Boulevard is opening soon. CORE, or CORE, stands for the Collective Oregon Eateries, and it will feature a wide array of dining options. Given CORE's location in the Lentz TIF district, Prosper Portland was able to provide the owners with a grant that funded a mural on the property. We also connected the owners to technical assistance through our fantastic partners at Apano. For more information, you can visit their website, corepdx.com, or you can follow them on Instagram for updates at corepdx. So finally, we've talked about this before, but just want to remind everyone who can to please continue to safely support your small local businesses. There are a number of campaigns and efforts in place to promote shopping local and small and eating local. You can visit builtoregon.com, pdxsos.com, or of course, Prosper's website, shopsmallpdx.com. This month, I want to highlight that you can learn about pop-ups on this website, shopsmall.pdx. If you go and click on blog, I in particular want to encourage you to visit the pop-ups at the shops at 10Y on 10th and Yamhill at the parking garage there. The pop-ups feature 4 local small businesses in the market hall, and then this will be through the end of February. So you can get something for your Valentine or for yourself. The businesses are selling a really wide range of products, from wellness and self-care to vintage rugs, urban streetwear, and art. And also, while you're there at 10th and Yamhill, I encourage you to go around the corner to shop at Aurochs Leather's new location or Abbey Creek Winery's PDX tasting room. I just want to acknowledge the incredible work of Amanda Park, Amy Nagy, Ember Breckenridge, Elise Hendrickson, Ann Mangan, Lisa Norwood, and Nai Zhao for their efforts. So thanks very much.
Great. Thank you for that great report. And once again, I apologize for getting to you out of order.
Oh, not
Sorry
a problem.
about that. All right. Any questions from the commissioners or anything? Otherwise, we will move along to our next agenda item. Okay, next up, we're going to adjourn and we're going to do the audit committee meeting. So the Prosper Portland board will now adjourn and convene as the Prosper Portland Audit Committee. This is agenda item number 6, and this is an action item accepting and approving the comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year 2019 to 2020 and accepting the communication with those charged with governance. So I think we have everybody available, but Michelle Whaley with Prosper Portland, Keith Simovic, and Amanda McCleary Moore with Moss Adams will be joining us to present.
Thank you, Chair Cruz and Commissioners. I really appreciate this opportunity to present to you the fiscal year 2020 financial audit results and the comprehensive annual financial report, commonly referred to as the CAFR, for your acceptance. The remote work environment was undiscovered country for Prosper's staff, and we had to make rapid, unexpected changes nearly overnight in March so that Prosper's financial business could carry on as usual. Then to anticipate an audit being performed remotely in late August was interesting, to say the least. In the end, the fiscal year 2020 audit was made completely workable. With the timely delivery of the audit opinion and our CAFR, we realized a great result. I want to thank the staff of Moss Adams for their approach, attitude, availability, and suggestions through the process. They made the audit as smooth and workable as it could be. The support of Prosper Portland management was also invaluable. I'll turn it over now to Moss Adams so that they can present the audit results. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. I think we have a presentation to pull up. There we go. All right. As Michelle said, we're here today to present the audit results from the fiscal year 2020 audit of Prosper Portland's CAFR, or financial statements. If you can go to the next slide, please. So we have just a short agenda for you here today. We're going to high level go over our engagement team who worked on the audit, the nature of the services that we provide to Prosper Portland. Keith is going to walk us through some of the significant audit areas. So that's where we spend the most of our time working with your staff. And then conclude with our audit reports, so our opinions over the financial statements and our conclusions, as well as our required communications with the audit committee and the Board of Commissioners. Next slide, please. So here's just a snapshot of our team. This is by no means everybody that worked on the audit, but these are probably some familiar faces. James or Jim Lancerata, the first one there, he retired in December. We thought we might get to see him here today, but when he retired, that was it for him. So we're not hearing quite as much from him as we thought that we might for a little bit after the first of the year. So Jim was the engagement reviewer and has worked with Prosper Portland for many years. He was still here to sign your audit reports. As Michelle mentioned, we did finish up this audit in October, so very timely, and he was still around to sign the audit reports. I hate to talk about him in the past tense like he's gone and passed away, but he's actually off doing more fun and creative things now with his farm. So I'm Amanda McCleary Moore. So for those of you who have not heard from me yet, so when Jim had decided to retire, he wanted to make sure that there was a partner involved in that transition. And I work with cities and counties and governments actually all over the firm, as well as quite a few in Southern California, as well as many and all over the state in a concurring reviewer position. And so I'm very familiar with governments and enjoy getting to work with them. I did do a review of your CAFR, but I was not at this point considered the engagement review or anything. So you got an extra bonus level review this year from another partner. Keith Simovic is the senior manager, so he actually does all the heavy lifting and reviewing of all of the work that's performed by our staff. He actually operates more at a partner level capacity, so his review of the CAFR and the work papers is something of continuity between going from Jim to having me involved. Keith is that consistency for you, as well as Danielle. So Danielle was the senior on the job. She worked on more complex areas, as well as directed the staff and made sure that we completed the audit on time. And she was a returning member of your team as well. If you go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to walk through the nature of services that we provided to Prosper Portland. So the first thing is that we complete our audit under a number of different auditing standards. The first is just the generally accepted auditing standards, which we perform the majority of our audits under. However, for Prosper Portland, we also complete your audit under the governmental auditing standards, as well as the requirements set out by the Oregon minimum audit standards, since you are an Oregon municipality. So as a result of that, we issue 3 different audit reports that can get combined with your financial statements. The second is because you guys get the GFOA Certificate of Excellence, we do review your CAFR to make sure that they comply with those additional elements. So while putting together the financial statements is already quite complex, given the number of different bases of accounting that you have to follow, budgetary basis, modified accrual, and then full accrual basis of accounting, you also include the statistical information in the back, a transmittal letter, and those additional requirements to make sure that your financial statements are easy to read for those readers and provide good information. So you perform additional work there, and so we do review to make sure that you continue to do that. I actually am a GFOA reviewer for the GFOA, so something fun for me to get to do is review that additional work. So we issue another audit report because of the governmental auditing standards. And this is actually over your internal controls and financial reporting. We don't issue an opinion over the effectiveness of your internal controls, but what we do there is if we identify any sort of internal control deficiency within financial reporting, we need to evaluate it and determine if it is considered what is called a significant deficiency or material weakness. And if we were to identify anything like that, that would get included in this report and it gets bound within your financial statements. So this is a little bit of a spoiler alert because I know that it always concerns some people when we talk about that, but we did not have anything that rose to the level of significant deficiency or material weakness. Keith will go over those reports later, but I always like to point that out, at least so you're not on the tip of your toes trying to figure out if you have any of those sort of findings. The next report that we issue is because of the Oregon minimum audit standards. So the types of, these are more of compliance types requirements that we're testing there. So we're testing items such as budget law, procurement, investment policies, those types of things that Oregon says as auditors, we need to test as part of Prosper Portland. And we issue an audit report that gets bound with your financial statements for that. Number 5 there, the review of the summary of revenues and expenditures required by the Secretary of State. So once the audit is completed, you have 30 days to file your financial statements with the Secretary of State for Oregon. And when you do that, you do complete what is called the summary of revenues and expenditures. And so we review that for consistency with the CAFR and review that before it gets sent off. And then the last item there is communication to those charged with governance. So that is when we communicate with the audit committee and board of commissioners, and we do that twice per engagement. So for every audit that we perform, we meet with you at the beginning of the audit in that planning phase to let you know what we're planning to do, and then talk to individual members to see if there are any concerns that we should perform risk assessment over as part of our audit. And then, of course, at the end of the audit to present you with our findings, which is here today. Next slide, please. And with that, I think I'm switching it over to Keith, and he's going to walk you through where we spent most of our time getting information from your team.
Perfect. Thanks, Amanda. And good afternoon, Chair Cruz and commissioners. Excited to be here again this year and be involved with the Prosper Portland again this year. This slide is really just to give you a little more insight into what we have deemed to be the significant audit areas, the areas where we spent the bulk of our time as we dove in to look at the year-end numbers and think about the different risks that are present in the current year. And this is something that we think about at the start of the engagement every single year, and we sit down with the audit liaisons. So Chair Cruz and Commissioner Platt have been part of that and those conversations as well to give a little any feedback that they've got on how we set this each year too. But we think about this fresh every single year when we talk about, what are the significant transactions? What's new this year? Where do we think there's additional risk just based on the environment that we're in, or changes in or turnover in management, or new controls in place, or new IT systems? All these things we talk about every single year to make sure that we are hitting on the appropriate risks and that we have designed an appropriate audit procedure in response to each of those risks. So some of these pop up from year to year, even though, I say we take a fresh look at this and we do, but some of these will be similar from year to year just based on the inherent risks of some of those transaction cycles. When you think about the valuation of your loans receivable, how that allowance is set, what that methodology is, and whether that's appropriate and whether it's being followed consistently each year. Or when you think about the valuation of property held for sale, have there been significant changes in market conditions that would prompt management to need to evaluate that and address it? So, those are things that we're looking at every single year and deemed to be significant audit areas because of the inherent risk. But some of the new ones that we think about, especially this year, was really because of the environment we're in right now, this remote work environment. And we're really wanting to understand what was the impact on internal controls, those processes and procedures that we know have been there in the past, and we've been able to test those in the past, but what impact has working remotely had on applying those internal controls? Are we still seeing them applied consistently like in the past? Are we seeing any delays in when they're occurring? A lack of timeliness compared to previous years because of the environment we're in. So that's something that is definitely a new thing this year. And we were pulling transactions and making sure we were testing items both before and after the onset of the pandemic, so we get an understanding of what was the impact to that system of checks and balances. So that was an important piece of what we're doing. And then, of course, each year we actually have a specialty IT team that comes in to look at certain key IT controls when we think about user access and change management. So many of the system of checks and balances and the controls in place go back to an IT and automated environment in these days. There's not as many pieces of paper where folks are signing off on things and approving things. It's a lot more electronic. So what becomes more and more important is who has access to those systems, what changes can they make, and how are those monitored? So we spend a lot of time there and bring in a specialty team on our side to test those IT controls as well. Okay, if you can go to the next slide, please. And then real quick, doing this audit remotely this year presented some additional challenges. Michelle alluded to that a little bit earlier, but overall, the good news definitely is that what we experienced, the team in place at Prosper Portland, we've been very impressed with the flexibility, the adaptability in this environment, and just the general positive attitude towards kind of doing things a little bit differently this year. And not to mention, I think we were going through fieldwork right at the time when the office move was going on and some other things. So there were a lot of challenges going on this year. But with all of that said, and all the changes and impacts, the fact that we were able to work with the team at Prosper Portland and get to the conclusion of the audit in the regularly scheduled time at the end of October, just as planned, is a feat in itself, and there's something to be said for that. But how do we get there, and how do we still perform an effective and efficient audit in this environment and not being on site? Because I guess if before the pandemic, if you'd asked us if we could do the audit remotely, probably wouldn't have been something that would have gone over too well, and we would have had more conversations on that. But this environment forces us into that, and it has gone very well. But that goes back to some of the electronic tools that we have available today. I don't know that we could have done this 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Just based on the technology that we can leverage in this process. So all of our documentation, the team at Prosper Portland has done a great job at digitizing a lot of the records. And we have a very secure file transfer portal to make sure that we can exchange those documents securely and safely along the way. We use a lot of virtual meeting platform tools to make sure that we can still have those meetings one-on-one with folks at Prosper Portland, but we can still use the screen sharing capability. So in the past, if we've been there and looking over their shoulder as they were navigating through the screens and showing us how they process a transaction, we can still achieve that using that technology. I mentioned pulling transactions before and after the pandemic, making sure that we're taking a good look at internal controls. So that was another piece at making sure that we can still perform a very effective audit and understanding the risks as a result of COVID and the remote work environment. And then finally, really making sure that we've got a good understanding of and feel comfortable with the disclosures that were added to the CAFR this year, to the financial statements related to the environment that we're in, the impact that's been incurred thus far, and the anticipated impact in the future. So you're going to see a lot of those narrative and disclosures in the CAFR this year in a few different sections throughout that report. So that was very important as well. Okay, go ahead and move to the next slide. So the final results that you'll see, Amanda did a good job of kind of going through each of the reports that we issue, and we've got those noted here. Our audit report over the financial statements, what you're going to see in there is a unmodified opinion on the financial statements. So we've gathered enough audit evidence and followed our professional standards to get to the point where we can state that the financial statements are free of material misstatement, whether due to error or fraud. So that's exactly what you're looking for. And again, fantastic result considering everything that we've been going through in this year, that management has still had a strong set of internal controls in place and been able to process transactions and issue the financial reports and get this great result in line with the initial timeline. So great news there. We didn't have any compliance findings on the Oregon minimum standards report. So that goes back to testing the compliance with Oregon local budget law. and testing public procurements and a number of other items as well. So great news there. And then our final government auditing standards report, this is where we would note if there were any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal controls. That report is where we would have to note those types of things. And again, those are the items that you don't necessarily want to hear, and they would be something where if there was a lack of internal controls or controls not operating as intended. Maybe you had a policy, but when we went to test it, there wasn't evidence that it was actually being followed. Those are the types of things that could pop up as a significant deficiency or material weakness. And so none of those items were noted this year. So very, very clean overall result for this year's audit, and very good news for Prosper Portland. Go ahead and advance to the next slide. The second deliverable that we issue is our communication to those charged with governance. This is a separate deliverable from your CAFR, and this is where it's required by our professional auditing standards, but it's where we communicate really some additional information about how the audit went, if anything significant came up that we want to let you know as the what's called in our terminology, those charged with governance, the Board of Commissioners. And so there's a number of items in here, and these bullet points kind of go back to some of the paragraphs that we have within that letter. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these, but some important things to note are kind of bolded on here. This is the letter where we would note if there were any significant or material audit adjustments. And that would be something if we were doing our testing, we found any errors in how transactions were recorded. Either they were, as we pulled the supporting documentation, whether that was an invoice or a contract or agreement or whatever it is, supporting what was recorded. If we were noting that the items recorded were recorded at the wrong amount or in the wrong period or recorded to the wrong account, those types of things could trigger an audit adjustment. And that's something that we would note here, which is something that the board would want to know about and the audit liaisons would want to know about to determine what action would need to be taken by management to prevent those types of things from happening in the future. But again, through the testing that we've done, we didn't have any material audit adjustments. So very good news there. And then also this is the letter where we would have any additional recommendations if there were material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, like I mentioned on the previous slide. So that other audit report that I mentioned, we would note those. And then in this letter, we would have recommendations on how to help the management team prevent or detect those timely in the future. So we didn't have anything like that. So that's very good news there. And I will say, overall, we didn't have any significant difficulties in performing the audit. And this really gets back to, scope limitations or anything like that, right? If there's anything that we asked for and we weren't provided with the documentation, or if we asked a question and we weren't given an answer, I think that's something that you'd want to know about as kind of the governing body of Prosper Portland. But even in this environment and everything, like in the past, we haven't encountered any issues from that perspective and felt everyone has been very transparent with us throughout this process. So really appreciate that. Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide, which I think is just opening things up for questions. And just a big thank you to Adam, Tony, Michelle, Kimberly, the audit liaisons, and everyone, all the staff at Prosper Portland that played a part in this. It's all hands on deck approach from everyone there, and especially in this year. So we really appreciate all the extra efforts that went into this. And the timing of it with the move and everything else going on as well. Good news for Prosper Portland and a lot of hard work with a good result that came out of it.
Great, thank you so much, Keith. Really appreciate that. And thank you, Amanda and Michelle as well. Great report, great information. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments? If not, I'll just say that I want to thank Moss Adams for your great work. You guys did a tremendous job. You always do, and we appreciate the positive comments. Please give our best to Jim. It was a pleasure to work with him over the years, and we'll miss him and think of him. I didn't know he had a farm, but we'll picture him out on his farm instead of doing accounting work. So that's great. And I also want to especially thank staff. This was a really difficult year to put all this together. And, it's really incredible. The whole time that I've been on the board, we've always had excellent audit results. We've won awards for great accounting work. It's really been super impressive. So many, many thanks from the board, and just really appreciate all the great work. Does anybody else have anything they want to say?
I was going to share the same sentiments. Thank you all for your hard work and good job, staff. Yeah.
Okay then. Well, I guess that takes care of it. We actually do have an action item to approve then. That's approving the CAFR, and this is resolution number 7408. Would someone like to make a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right then. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor? All right.
Aye.
Great. Passes unanimously. Okay. Well, thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate your great work.
All right, thank you. It's nice to see everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
We'll see you again soon, I'm sure.
Sounds great.
Almost time to start again.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Okay. All right. So now that's the end of this phase of our meeting for today. And there being no further items on the agenda, the Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners meeting is now adjourned.